Hello, everybody. Suzanne Kellner-Zinck with Dawn Visions Hypnosis here to talk to you about stress. Oh my God, people are under so much stress today in so many different ways. Sometimes it has to do with a job and just having too much to do, too few hours to do it in, and maybe dealing with bosses or management who are not too helpful and sometimes can be a pain in the butt, expecting too much for one person. Because we know how it is these days in the world of corporate America. In order to handle this kind of stress, the best thing to do is to recognize that you are one person and you can only do the things that you can do. Take your time doing the projects you have so you can do them well. And if you have a problem getting them done, do what you need to do to find out how best to get it done. With AI, there's so many things you can learn through AI. Oh my God, I was playing with it earlier today because I was given a bunch of really great prompts in order to create whatever I wanted to create. In this case, it's a course and a bunch of content for marketing, sales, and shall we say my stump stack, because you can do almost anything with it. So I suggest you use it. It will save you a whole lot of time and get you the information you need in so many areas that you could never imagine. But you do have to double check it to make sure that the information it's giving you is actually real and to the point, especially if you're looking up articles, because sometimes the links they give you to articles don't go to the articles that they say they do. So make sure that you do what you need to do with that. The other thing is to make sure that you're taking time for self care. Wake up early in the morning if you need to just ground yourself. This is something that saved me many, many years ago when I was dealing with bronchial asthma. My doctor had no idea how to help me with it. None of the medications were working, so I wasn't willing to take them. But a brand new hypnotist in my master practitioner program in neurolinguistic programming basically gave me morning rituals. Now, she wanted me to meditate, and that time I didn't know how to meditate. I just forget it. But instead, I did self hypnosis to handle the things I needed to handle, because you can get rid of a lot of junk in your brain this way, and you can also future pace yourself to do the stuff you want to do. And I've done it so many times to create whatever I wanted in my life. So when I really get down to it, I can create pretty much anything. But you have to know that it's going to get done. That's all. And of course, you have to take the actions along the way. But when you have a compelling future and something that's really important to you, like for me, it was traveling the world and finding a place I wanted to live among loving, caring, beautiful people with real food, not the garbage in America. Even the Whole Foods in America are generally garbage, on the seaside. And that's exactly where I'm living now, in Albania, with a very loving family that takes really good care of me. I have my own place, but they do make sure that my every need is taken care of. And if anything happens in the apartment, which they don't even own, someone else does, they come over and they fix it. It's like amazing. In any case, what I'm here to tell you is that meditate, mindfulness, self hypnosis, it all helps us to stay much calmer and think more clearly if we do this on a regular basis. Gratitudes are also like really important because they keep you in a really positive mindset. And it can be gratitudes for the most simplest of things to the most complicated of things. Generally, I tell my clients, it doesn't matter. Just so you find some stuff to find gratitude about. Maybe you're healthy, maybe you're feeling better than you did the day before, something of this nature. Maybe you had an opportunity come along that you didn't expect and it worked out really well. Maybe someone brought you some gifts. I don't know, whatever. Gratitude. All right. And then journaling. I really love journaling. Journaling is actually the way that I found my way to Israel, not once, but twice. I figured out who could help me get there. And the second time, I found the Peace and Conflict Management program at the University of Haifa, international school overlooking the beautiful Mediterranean Sea, one of my favorite places to be anywhere along the Mediterranean Sea. So that worked out really, really well. So you can create all kinds of really great things. If you just take a little time in the morning, none of the stuff has to take a really long time, 20 minutes, half an hour. And then I would suggest that you read stuff. You know, nonfiction is great just to get you out of life for a while. Sometimes we need that. And that would be for fiction books. And then nonfiction, just to stay on top of your game, to know what you're doing. You know, it's always good to have stuff that you're working on because that helps us feel like we're growing instead of stagnating. Because the opposite of growing is dying. And I sadly can tell you of too many of my peers who died early because they just didn't have any compelling reason to live any longer. And they were just getting really upset about stuff happening in their lives because they had no compelling reason to continue on. They ended up getting sick and terrible things happened. I would not like that to happen to you. So I'm just saying this is something you can do. I was just speaking with a client and her mom. The client is a really beautiful 15-year-old daughter who's been going through a really, really hard time for a really long time now. And just recently, they found out some of the stuff that was going on for years and years and years. And when her mother found out, she was like, really, oh my God, I can't believe that I allowed that to happen. Well, parents, you can't monitor every moment of every day that your kids are out doing stuff. But you do want to allow for the space, as his mom did, to allow her daughter to feel trustworthy or trusted enough in her mother, loving her enough to take her information for what it was. And it was pretty obvious that she was having a really, really hard time for a long, long time. And her mother did take her very seriously and has been working really hard to find her help. And that's a really, really good thing. But the stress that you can go under as a parent when you're dealing with this stuff, it's hard. She said this has been unbelievably difficult for her because it's really hard when you have a kid who's going through so much pain, be it physical pain, emotional pain, whatever, and you don't know how to help them, and you're doing everything you can, getting them the professional help, and it's a total loss. It's frustrating, and you just don't know what to do. But this mom has really worked with her daughter. Luckily, her daughter is willing to do the things that she's found to be able to help them and is getting the help that she needs as a result. And that's when you can feel better, right? As soon as your child is actually functioning better and moving on in life. And that's what I stand for here when I'm working with my kid clients, as I affectionately call them. And, sometimes you're dealing with kids who have drug addiction problems and things of this nature. And, I've seen it work both ways where parents have always been there for their kids through the ups and downs, the manipulation, all the rest of this stuff. And sometimes they're able to come out of it, and sometimes they just are not. And it gets to the point where the parent just feels like it's either them or me. And, I can only do so much. I don't have any control over a grown kid. And it's true, you don't. In fact, you probably don't have much control over teenage kids either. In a lot of cases, they're kind of bigger than you, especially if they're boys and you're a female. So you have to listen to your inner wisdom. This is when journaling comes in and hypnosis come in really, really helpful because you get a sense of what can you handle, what can you not handle anymore. And then you can figure out what kind of strategy you want to use in order to deal with the problem. Other stressful things. I have a client right now who's dealing with, has been dealing for the last 20 or so years with a wife who has been undermining him endlessly. And this has stressed him out, and he came to get help from me because he was procrastinating. He didn't know why, but he was procrastinating because he was really depressed. Depressed people don't do so well in the world because their whole systems are depressed. They just feel like, what is the worth of doing any of this stuff? And they just a lot of times can't think clearly either, depending on how low the depression gets. So through working with him, I've been able to help him actually know that his proposal is well enough written when he felt it was. Didn't take that much longer after I worked with him. And then he got it out and he was able to close a multi-year, $80,000 a year speaking and workshop gig with a church that he really wanted to work with. He is an ex-pastor, actually, and he's an amazing speaker. So that was really wonderful. We're still working on the other part regarding the spouse, and he's working on getting divorced from her at this point because seriously, there's nothing we can do to help her, sadly. In these cases, sometimes they can't. They have to want the help, number one. Number two, they have to have problems that are helpable. In her case, sadly, she doesn't really want the help. And I'm not sure she has a problem that's helpable given what I know about the situation. So he is doing all his work outside of the house now so he can concentrate on getting more speaking gigs and workshop gigs and other income coming into the household so he can take care of the things he needs to take care of timely. And she's not too happy about that, but if all she's going to do is sit there and undermine him and tell him that he's not doing enough or not giving him credit for the stuff that he does do and manipulates him in all negative ways, there's no reason for him to be in the house, if you understand what I'm saying. So for him, the best thing was to use his workday outside of the house so he could concentrate on the work that he needed to do. And he's doing amazingly well, I have to say. He really is. It was a good idea. And that was his idea that he came up with as we were talking one day in a session. So there's many things that you can do to release the stress. Sometimes it's a process, depending on if it's something you can do for yourself or if other people are involved. But the bottom line is we have to know that there are choices out there. And if you're having a really, really hard time, as my clients have, all my calendar is in the description box below so that you can connect with me and we can set up a time to talk and we see if we're a good match and if I can help you with the problems that you have, because I do screen out people who are not ready to heal now. I am a hypnotist and an NLP practitioner. I am not a psychotherapist. So we're into healing and helping people move on with life. No symptom management allowed. We just help people heal and move on. And the other thing is it really needs to fall inside my scope of care, which is really a lot of things to do with emotional trauma and releasing that kind of stuff. And getting people to do the things they need to do in their lives and the things that they want to do in every area of their life actually is the goal. They come up with their own objectives. My job is to help them meet them as quickly as they can make it happen. There's some other stuff like products and other services that you can find. I have a Substack that I began actually for educating the public regarding the new research that's coming out regarding medications, most especially to do with mental health, because it's very hard to find this information elsewhere, but I have my resources, and I think it's very important for people to have informed consent. It is the law in the USA, but you wouldn't necessarily know that given the partial information that you're given, unfortunately. And I think that's it for now. Hope you found this helpful. And as always, I thank you for spending your time with me. Till next time. Bye-bye.